Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for another Trustworthy Live. Chris, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm just super excited that everyone has chosen to spend their time with us, and we are so excited about the interview that we've had just
Yeah.
recently. Um, Susan, introduce us to our wonderful interviewee.
So I've been following Anna Perini for quite a while. So she is right now a product manager in strategy and development for artificial intelligence. And we all have talked about AI before and what trust
Mhm.
has to do with this. But what really intrigued me about Anna and what I think our audience is going to learn a lot about and from is that she started out as a medical doctor. So she was a pediatrician, and then she jumped into technology as a doctor, which ended up leading her into this product manager role. And I found her story to be incredibly inspiring and courageous, and and the amount of self-trust it took to take those leaps. I know I've changed my career about 6 different times, and people go, "Oh my gosh, how do you do it?" So I can really resonate with going from this type of job to that type of position and growing into these roles. She literally takes each one apart and talks about what trust had to do with it. And wow, I was blown away by some of her insights and teachings and learnings that we could share with our audience today.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of people talk about these career transitions as taking a huge leap of faith or being a risk taker. But I think also that was what was really interesting is when we had a look back at even some of the really interesting situations and experiences of her childhood, you start to see some of the behaviors that started then and how they actually influenced her ability to take risks today. And for me, I thought, oh my goodness, we've just seen the whole person. We've seen all of Anna.
Yeah, and for those of us that either have families, we're going to have families, core family is so core and center to how she lives her life, and and really talking so openly and honestly about family and trust and how all of that framed how she was been able to make those decisions as she moved forward in her career and with her life. I just think this is exciting. We've never interviewed anybody like Anna before, and I just think that you, our audience, are going to get so much out of it. I know we did. So with that, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for another episode of Trustworthy Live. We are so excited that you chose to spend this time with us today. And we have the most amazing guest for you to meet, Anna Perini. Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, and we are excited to have you here with us today because Anna, to us, has the most interesting background where she works at the intersection of healthcare, AI, all other kinds of technology, leadership, raising a family with 3 kids. I think that what role trust plays a part in all of that will be fascinating for our viewers to learn about and to hear and to just learn all about you. So, Chris, you want to say anything else, or should we just jump right in?
Totally. So what I want to say is I'm very excited for this interview because Susan has revealed a little bit more behind the scenes about your career journey and some like maybe difficult, maybe not difficult decisions that you had to make and the compromises that were involved in that. So very excited for you to kind of pull back the curtain and reveal some of that for our audience during today's session.
That's amazing. So yeah, I will before the questions, I'll jump into my like background, but I went into medical school. or actually, we'll even backtrack that. I went into molecular biology, and all I did was
Wow.
live in the lab my entire undergrad, loved it to death. And I was told if you wanted to work on human cells, you had to be an MD. So I went, even though I wanted to do the lab stuff, I was told I had to get an MD. So I went into medical school. And while I was in medical school, I met my husband. And while I was doing that, I was going back and forth from Philadelphia to New York, back and forth every day, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., and doing that drive,
I
which is
remember
fun.
that.
Yeah. So it was a lot of back and forth. And during that time, I ran into a person at a gym that said they're looking for physicians, like at at a company that is 9 to 5 and in Philadelphia, which is amazing. So I was like, sure, that sounds amazing. So I jumped on that role, and it ended up being, it was kind of like a medical Google for the hospitals. So it was a really cool concept. But yeah, that's how I moved in from medical into the other role. And so then from that, went into product management, went into AI. We'll obviously get into it with questions, but that was kind of my shift, was a gym, which if you talk about trust, and I know Susan, you said like you have to trust jumping from a hospital to a corporate world. It was a big shift in my life.
Definitely. And it's because you trusted the relationship of someone that you met uh, sweating alongside at the gym. So a very
So
vulnerable situation. And you were able to build trust in that moment. That is an amazing story. And you just summarizing that, from molecular biology to an MD to the corporate world with tech and AI, like that feels like a wild ride.
So tell us a little bit about how you were, so that takes a lot of self-trust, right? You trusted that when you took those leaps, that you would be okay, you would actually fulfill a vision or a goal or something. Tell us a little bit about how you think about self-trust when you make decisions around these big life changes.
yeah, and I would like to say that it's a lot of trust. A lot of it is luck. I will say 50-50. Is you have to make that leap, right? So it's trusting yourself, but you also it's luck. Like you're hoping that it's going to work out. You fulfill all your boundaries. You backtrack and make sure that you're financially stable, or you have a stable like for me, I had my husband, but you definitely know that you have a way to go backwards. But it's luck to leap, and I think everyone knows that, right? It's a luck to take that second leap, but you have to trust in yourself to make that leap to go into another field. And I've made a lot of leaps. Like I went at my first company, I was doing a lot of medical stuff. I told you I made a medical Google. I created a lot of medical stuff. The second company I did after 7 years, I went into product management, which had nothing to do with medical world. But it's because I knew so much technology from my first 7 years that second, leap made sense to me. And right now I'm now in the AI world, which that's the third leap. So it's definitely leaping, and it's fun. But you have to know every time you make that leap that you can't go back.
So I have a question, because you've got 3 children that you're raising right now, and you obviously were raised by 2 parents. Can you think of anything that they did in raising you that gave you that self-confidence to trust taking those leaps, that you'd be okay, that you might actually be doing with your children right now. So how do you, like, I don't think we often, Chris, get into this, how do you raise kids? But as you're telling that story, your parents had to have done something in how they raised you to build that foundation that led you to be able to lead this life. What do you think?
So much. We shadowed a lot. I mean, I'll go backwards. High school, shadowed. I wanted to be a physician. They just found their resources. Let me shadow different physicians the entire time I was in high school. I worked at every horse shelter. I owned 2 horses that were both rescue horses. And they kept them off premises, which I had to then take to school and ride them. But they gave me those resources to me. Like, they weren't going to muck the stalls. They were like, when I went to go to college, I wanted to go to Case Western, and they were like, there's no farm. What are you doing with the horses that you own? Because we're not taking care of them. And so I had to find a college that allowed horses. And so I got a full ride to that college, but then I had to pay for my horses at that college. But that was, that's something that they instilled, that you can have it, but you have to want it, like, own it, and it's yours. So that was, and then when I went to med school, I sold the horses because they weren't going to take care of them. And then going backwards, if I wanted to use a boat, I had to make sure that I had gas in that boat. I had to make sure that the boat had a battery charger. I had to make sure it was running. Like, nothing was always given to me. And if I wanted to go out to a friend's house, I always had to make sure that that friend had a parent that was going to be there for me and meet me halfway. So there was always like a halfway point on all my rides growing up. But I do think there was always a trust that they had to say, like, you can go, but we're going to meet you kind of halfway and on everything. And even now with my children, we allow my oldest one to go, and he's now crossing the busy street, and he has a time limit, and we're nervous, but he messages before he crosses the busy street. He messages when he crosses the busy street. So I think we're not there on that trust level, but we're trusting him that he'll cross the busy street.
So what you're saying is that one way that you can build self-confidence and self-trust is if your parents actually trust you in growing up. Because what I heard, the thread in all of that was that your parents trusted, is that your parents trusted you. They set boundaries, they set the box, but then they trusted you.
Correct. Yeah. And and then once you ruin the trust, right, you're in trouble. Like, you back up the box a little bit. So, and we personally, we've had to do that a few times. So we're taking away electronics because they've ruined the trust that we say you can't go on electronics for a certain hour when they wake up, because they all wake up at 5. And if they're on it, then we back it up. So then it's an hour later. So you definitely, you get the trust until you push it.
That's interesting. So I have an additional key takeaway from that story you told, that you rode a horse to school and back.
Yes. So I took 2 horses to school, and I was able to ride them back and forth from school. So it was a fun adventure. It's so interesting because I only owned them like probably my junior year of high school into my senior year of college. So it was such a small moment in now my life that I can't even remember it as much, but it was definitely, it was an Amish town. it was super cute, but yeah.
Oh, that's adorable. I love that. um, so I there's another thing that I heard in your telling your story. Like I love the flow through, Susan, that you pulled out of that. Another flow through is that they empowered you to really own the full breadth of the thing, right? So, like the boat situation, you had to think, you had to pre-plan, you had to think about the gas and the charging and all this, all the different components. And I do think that being able to paint a picture of what you need to prepare for is a skill that maybe people don't talk about enough.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's a huge thing is like I just went to my parents' house this weekend. I had to charge all the boats. I had to fill up all the, and not sound bougie, I had to fill up all the tubes. I had to, get all the stuff ready for the water and get everything ready to go, because that's what I've learned to do my entire life. And it's just something that you walk in and you don't sit down. You walk in and you do it. And once you sit down, and I think everyone knows in this world, once you sit down, you're kind of toast. You're tired. You should never sit down. So getting up and just doing what you need to do, and I think that involves with work. Like, right, I wake up at 5, I get my kids out the door. I would love to lay back down in bed, but I have to work. So it is so nice to just have the mentality to stay up and just keep going. And I think that's a huge thing. There's tons of people will sit down and then they're done.
Yeah, they will prioritize comfort over grit or just
Yes.
getting it done. And I do
Correct.
think that's important these days, because I wanted to ask you about some of the transferable skills going from an MD into tech. Like that had to have been overwhelming. It's an industry, it's a whole different industry. Like, how did you bridge the gap from a skill set perspective?
A lot of help. I had a lot of help. So a lot of the technical writers, and developers, they wanted to help me. And that was such a great experience. And I don't know if that's in every industry or different companies, but every company I've worked for, a question, they'll be like, let's get on the call. I want to help you. And they will help me learn how to use the tool. And I don't know if it's because they don't want to teach me 3 times, but they are so nice and it's so helpful. And then I know how to do it. And then I feel so empowered that I can build all of these tools. Like I built a UI the other day. I built a software tool the other day. Like I can now build, which is not in my wheelhouse. So you're right. Like, how did I go from MD to that? I took the knowledge. So when the outcome comes in, so it shows me patient data, I know that patient data is correct. But the tooling is a whole separate thing. And that's just fun. Like it's such a cool opportunity and tool. Just like we're using a podcast, it's so fun to learn these new technologies and grow with them. But I'm able to almost, we call it QA, like you're able to quality assurance the data. But it's a great opportunity, and I love it more and more.
Did being trained as a doctor help you frame or do so what I think when I think of a doctor, I think of somebody that has a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of diagnostic skills, they test assumptions. Like there are things that go into being a doctor. that seem like they would be transferable into building technology tools. Bridge that a little bit. Did some of that education and development frame how you approach your world of technology?
So much. So obviously, when you walk into a room and you see a patient with a headache, knee pain, a stomach ache, and they're all there, and you're like, those are three different things. So you really need to understand the background, how it came to be, what's the quickest fixed, what's the longest fixed, and that is exactly how you work with technology. Is you walk into a situation, it could be, there's so many tools out there that have millions of documents, and you're like, okay, what's the quickest fix? Can we merge them all? What's the fastest fix? All right, give them quick access, Q&A, question and answer to those documents. What's the long-term fix? Give them a chatbot. And that, I mean, obviously that's just one idea, but that's the same thing that you do in medicine. Is you have all of these systems, you have to minimize and minimize and minimize until you get a solution, because you can't like, someone has back pain, you're not doing back surgery right away, but you have to figure out, can Tylenol work? Can therapy work? Can surgery work? You have to go through all of those steps. So I do think going from medical to this is the same solution.
And I'm going to throw a trust in there, Chris, if I can, for a second. So a doctor has to build trust immediately with their patient. In the world of AI, talk a little bit about how you build trust with the consumer, with the market. And I mean, in both instances, trust is huge in adoption. So
And
how do you do that?
I will say AI is worse than physicians. If you walk in with a white coat, you build trust right away. And as we all know, you look up reviews, you see the physician, you go in, and then you say, I have an ailment, I have a stomach ache. You assume that doctor, you trust that doctor to fix you. Going to AI, when we are pitching all of this AI stuff, we're building all these AI products, everyone, because we're all living in the same world, we're all skeptical that solution that you just said, you threw 1,000 documents into one itty bitty tool that I can now read on my computer, and you assume that the answer is correct. It is really hard to convince people. So from my experience is we are showing them in small bursts. So we'll put in a few documents and then ask them to give us questions ahead of time. Be like, what would you ask? And how would you handle this? And they'll give us, and then we'll add more and more. And you can see their faces light up. And it's so amazing that they can see they did not have to go through those 1,000 documents just to find one single answer that says, the 401k is, 90%. But it's insane to see all of this documentation come together and be a quick answer, which is all internal, so you can't just Google it. So that's been amazing.
I have a follow-up question to that. Along with understanding the tooling, is there a layer, and I don't know where I'm going with this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a layer of new processes and methodologies you had to learn? So as you were describing that, incrementally you create a tool, then you ask feedback, and then you enhance. Is that an agile methodology, a sprint methodology? Is there something that works better than not for building trust?
It's definitely agile, and as you're correct, the first time we built it, the whole tool, we built it and we threw it out there, and everyone freaked out. That was 2023. The world freaked out. We were like, look at how amazing this is, all the data you could ever experience. And we did have to backtrack. and start, we went back to Agile. Sprint is how we got to 2023, but
Okay.
Agile is what we did post 23 is see the use case. Like we were really building use cases we didn't know were ever going to exist at first. And we had to so we built it and we had to backtrack on customizations and use cases of what was there, but there was no use cases to start. So it was definitely a fun
Wow.
time, but
So is the use cases a good place to, I mean, with the buzz and the acceleration of technology within the corporate world as well, in any world really, um, looking to integrate AI into your systems and your processes and things like that, is use cases a great place to start?
I think it's a combination of two. Of you show them what they can do, right? Like if I showed you that, emails every day you wake up and it will tell you everything you needed to know in the emails versus reading emails, you'd be like, great, like cool. But someone might be like, but what did I miss in those emails? And do I need to customize? Like, a lot of people have quick filters. I know email has primary and all that stuff now. So like, it's like,
Yeah.
what did I miss? Is something there that I'm missing out on? And that's the customization point. So I do think you have to show them, and I'll use email. You have to show them the primary, say like, how cool is this? You get all your emails. Then you say like, I can customize that to show you you don't even have to read them. I'll just give you bullet points of what you missed. And then there is the other customization of backtracking and saying, there's these 50 other emails that you never saw, you probably should have read, and now you missed out on. So it's definitely a learning curve for all of this. And I think it's trying to find the sweet spot and knowing that there always needs to be a human in the loop. Like you're always going to miss out on something. And so when I know Susan, you're always big about like trust, but you can never trust AI. You always can trust AI to a small amount. You cannot trust it to the fullest. Always there's going to be a human in the loop on this.
So talk a little bit more about that. So you mentioned this is internal versus external. So when I was listening to you, I was thinking of ChatGPT. I was thinking about my use of an AI tool to manage my everyday, and I manage more and more with ChatGPT or Claude or whoever it is that's the best tool for the moment. Are you referring to internal versus external? Tell our audience a little bit about where you work versus where I'm hanging, and is that the same?
They're separate. So there's a gateway. Internally, there's always going to be a gateway, and I'm sure it's at every company. You have to make a contract with whichever service you're using saying they won't learn off of your data. And that is a contract, even though they say they won't. You have to have you have to have a service in between that will say that they are blocking your internal. If I throw in, Susan is making $110 a year and I'm looking to hire her or like bring her up in, wages, like what can it be? That cannot go out to the public. So that gateway is what we are using externally. And I'm sure my ChatGPT externally knows exactly who I am. They're like, because you have 3 children, you should be doing this and this and this. I'm like, how'd you know that?
Well, wait. Okay, I have a funny story. So we're buying window treatments, and I was putting in ChatGPT to analyze the different vendors or whatever. And it responded to me and said, I've done thousands of renovations, and in my experience, Susan, this is, and I read it and I went, wait, aren't you like an AI tool? And it said, oh yeah, you caught me.
Yeah, so the gateways are definitely needed for a company. I honestly don't care if they know that I have 3 children and I have a house. Like they can know that. I actually, when I ask a question, I hope they know that I have 3 children in a house so that they answer my questions appropriately. But that's about trust. And I agree on that is I know my data is out there, right? And we should all know that our data is out there. And you can go through a lot of work to protect your data, but knowing that what you're giving them is like they know you is perfect, but also knowing that you can't give them anything private. Like I can't put my credit card in there and be like, oh, like can you tell me how my bank statement's doing? Like you have to know, and that's definitely a level I think we're all fighting right now is what's too much and what's too limited.
Go back to gateway and trust and AI, because I think for our audience, that's a really important piece of this. So if I'm going to trust XYZ company with some interaction, talk about how I need to trust that the way they develop their product is not something that's out in the open or that is scammy or something like that. I think that's really an interesting perspective on trust.
Yeah, so the gateway is the biggest one. A contract is your second one, right? If they say and then it gets leaked, it's on them. But a gateway, a blocker, a firewall is going to be your biggest solution to holding your data down. And we've honestly talked about not needing it because ChatGPT and all those tools say they are not saving your data and they're not using it and they're not doing all this, but they are. So the firewall, the gateway, all of that is still necessary, and every company is going to have that. That's a bigger company to make sure that you are protected, and it's nothing that you as a person has to do. You just need to know that someone else is doing it for you. If not, you could do it yourself.
Interesting. Yeah, right. I've never thought about I guess, the mechanics behind the scenes and the checkpoints. Um, but I do also like you mentioned about always having that human there to validate. And I'm curious in the work that you do when you're rolling something out, a tool or whatever that is. You've built trust through, I guess, the development process, asking questions, but how do you now give the user the responsibility to validate and discern? Because you're helping them by taking away busy work, but then you're giving them a different responsibility, which actually they might not have that skill set.
Yeah, so it's been a huge ongoing. So I think I said in the beginning, we rolled out everything. Like we built it without any use cases. We built it, we threw it out at them. And they were like, cool, we love the answers. And they loved it. They went through all of corporate with like, look at these answers. And then people started trickling back down going like, how do you know that's correct? And now we've learned and we've built, so now we provide the link. So you're saying human in the loop. So I say, for a clinical trial, a blood pressure needs to be, whatever. And here's the link for you to click on from the 1,000 documentations that are there. So you can click on it and double check. So now we're putting it at the user's fault. So if something goes wrong, they can't blame AI. We can blame them for not clicking on the link that gave them access to the actual data. So we're now in the middle. Like we'll show you, we'll give you a quick answer, but if you feel like it's wrong, double check it on this link. It kind of is saving, it's saving the people from saying, I don't know if this is correct. It is giving people half trust. If we're working on the word trust here, it's giving them like I get the document or I get the answer, but let me just click on it and double check my sources.
You know, this reminds me of the story when you said your parents would make sure that the parent you were going over to would meet you halfway. Like you've created a system where the AI has become more reliable by providing the link, but you still need that human intervention to meet you halfway. So I love how this is like all wrapping up into that.
It's all the same thing. And I know the goal, right? And we could be talking in 3 years, right? The goal is to have the human in the loop out of the loop. And there's going to be, and I will talk about this. My husband has the self-driving car and he lets it drive and I drive it and I freak out and I have my hands half on the wheel the whole entire way for 6 hours. I'm like, eek, eek. Is it going to turn around? Is it going to go past the truck? I don't trust it at all. But he does. And so there's going to be the new generation that they're going to trust what is given to them. And then there's going to be the older generation that's going to be like, how'd you know that? And they'll be like, I Googled it. Like, I just figured it out. So
if you look at the workplace and you look at the intergenerational component and makeup of a workplace, how does that impact trust? Is it the older ones are like, yeah, and the newer ones are like, I'm all in, and this is what I grew up gaming online. I just am comfortable. How does that impact trust in getting your work done and in leadership? Because that's really interesting.
Yeah, the newer generation is using and we have Cursor, which is an AI coding tool. It's called Cursor, and that's the one that I built the UI off of the other day. Like I can do it myself. It is like a chat GPT for coders. So the younger generation uses it, doesn't even ask questions. The older generation, they build their code first, and then now they're slowly putting it into Cursor to ask it to double check it. It's almost like a QA agent. So that is the shift I'm seeing, whereas the younger, build it, older is like, check it.
Interesting. So, you know what? We could keep going on forever. I think we need to wrap up. So we have one final question for you.
Uh-oh.
And then we have to come back and get more into this. It was so interesting and such a different conversation than what we normally have. I think we learned a lot about how tech is developed on the side. If you were to give 3 hacks to our audience about how to view trust and technology, or even trust in raising your family, what has your background led you to learn, believe, and actually guide our audience into maybe changing in their behaviors?
One, always jump. Whatever you're looking at, always jump. I didn't look at these ahead of time. I should have looked at the questions. But well, yeah, one's always jump. I think if you're even thinking about it, just do it. 2, family first. And 3, I feel like I have a bunch. Trying to think of the best one. Sure, that's 3. 3.
You could go to 4.
Leadership. Always talk to leadership. Like never go from, like, if you are like in any issue, go to VP, like go to CEO. They will always talk to you. People are so scared of leadership. Always go above. Like if you're worried about your job, if you want a new job, always go above. I think people talk to their boss doesn't want to leave them. Like they don't. And then once you tell them you want to leave, then they're going to be grumpy. But I think going to higher up leadership is really important, because I am finding right now it is one of the most important. People don't know that you're not happy, or they don't know that you're like in trouble or anything. So I think that's very important. But yeah, always family first and then everything else.
I love it. And I'm going to add it just a couple of things that I think were threads. One, trust but verify. I mean, you literally lead with trust, and your parents led with trust. And with that, and that happens in AI, it happens in medicine, and but always with a box and always with a foundation and a framework and boundaries. Exactly. So I think that what I found really interesting is whether it was growing up or going into medicine or developing AI tools, everything had a jump in and a leap, as you said, but also with boundaries and always with verification.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know about verification. That one I don't know about, but.
Well, you said testing it. You said testing it, right? I'm calling that, is there a better word for it? Maybe I was thinking that as verify. Do what?
I said we'll figure it out.
Okay, yeah, but that's how I heard the test, throw things out there, test it, go back. So to me, those are really important things for our audience to think about, ideas to think about as they move forward. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I want to say that our values align when you say just jump. I think risk taking can be healthy, as well as exciting, and very necessary at times. So I love that that was one of your key takeaways. Um, I really loved the evolution of your career. At the end of the day, like that's the part that just blows my mind. Like MD and technology, corporate world, product management, and you continue to evolve. That for me is probably the thing that some of the students that I mentor at Pratt Institute would want to hear. That you might study
send
something.
them my way. As I say, send them my way.
Yes, yes, yeah, I absolutely will. I will. I mean, I think they struggle with two things: is what jobs will exist in the future? How do I need to retrain again from scratch? So that's a big thing. And I think this conversation is going to help them. And the second one is like, how do I make friends at work? And how you've approached relationships, I think will also help them.
Well, friends at work means you have to go out with the friends at work. So I will say we work from home, but every Friday, even though we all work from home, we all go into the office and we go out. And I will say for lunch. And without that, like you don't build those friendships. Like you have to force everyone to go out to lunch. And even as new people join, like the first few times they would say they're not coming to lunch, and then they would realize 14 of us are going to a gigantic lunch. It takes 3 hours because there's 14 of us, and it is, and you sit at different sections of the table each time. So you don't just sit with your bestie. You move around, and I will say that's the only way you can connect, because you're never going to connect at work. It's just not possible. It is those lunches, and we do them on Fridays, and I will say it to the end of my days, having a lunch with your coworkers is the most friendliest, out of office, you can say whatever's on your mind conversation.
And it builds trust. It ends up all being all about the relationship, right?
Correct. Yeah. You learn to like them, or you learn to not like them, but
And with that, I am so sorry we have to end this, but I think our time, thank you so much for sharing how this world that Chris and I are really not very familiar with works, and sharing your time with us and our viewers. And to all of you out there, thank you for choosing to join us yet again for another incredible Trustworthy Live. See you next time.
And as my life evolves, I'm happy to come back. So.
We would love to
love
have
that.
you. Yeah. Thanks all. See you
All right.
later.
Okay,
Thank you.
see you.